We're coming up on the middle of 2023, which means it's time to say goodbye to my first notebook. Well, not goodbye, I'll be keeping it, but it's time to stop using soon my first notebook for the year and move into a new one. You can see this one has been very well loved. It's gotten pretty chunky over the past 5 months at this point, nearly 6. And don't you just love that fresh notebook feeling? This is the journal I'm going to be using for the second half of 2023. It's the Hourglass Dreams journal from KUMA Stationery and Crafts. And it's already got some Mitsu hair on it, so it's been christened. Grab your own notebook and let's get set up for the second half of 2023. Adding my name to the end sheet seems like a good time to introduce myself. Hello, if you haven't been here before, my name is Erin. I make bullet journaling and stationery content, and I'm really happy that you're here. In my previous journal, I tried out a grid spacing bookmark or ruler system based on the one that Tracy Tyler Revel made, and you can see that in my previous video if you'd like to. I'll pop a link in the description. I'm going to do a similar thing, but a little bit different this time. I'm going to remove the last page of my journal, just like I would if I was making a bookmark or ruler, but I'm going to tape this into the inside cover as a little flip out. I think the word is tip in. I've heard other people call it that. This was very much inspired by the wonderful Jess Jashikorin. Jess does this with her keys. I don't actually use a key for my journal, so I thought doing it with my grid spacing would be a fun experiment, and if I don't like it as much as the bookmark, then I'll just go back to the bookmark system for next year. My previous journal was from Sassy Pigeon HQ, and it is an A5 notebook that has a 5mm dot grid, so the spacing is actually the same in my new journal, which is also an A5 notebook with a 5mm dot grid, which means all of the spacing values will be the same, so I'm referring back to my grid spacing bookmark in order to make this happen. I'm working on the vertical tip-in first, so I'm just making sure that it has all of the numbers from top to bottom for all of the spaces, as well as how I would divide the page into half, into thirds, and into quarters. And I'm just making sure to take off as much as I can around the outsides and making the edges a little bit rounded so they'll be a bit more durable, and then I'm going to tape it to the edge of the inside cover. I found out the hard way later when I tried to add the one that goes along the top that I needed this to be closer to the edge, so we're gonna have to move it, but for now, this is approximately where it's going. Obviously, it was my first time doing this, so I had a lot to learn along the way. I'm using the paper that was left over to make the tip-in that marks the horizontal of the page, so I'm just cutting that down to the same width as the number of dots that are horizontally across a page, and labeling it in the same way as the previous, so numbering all of the spaces, working out where the middle is, and then dividing it into halves and also into thirds. I'm not doing quarters for the horizontal one just because I think they'd be a bit too narrow to actually be usable, and I don't think I've ever actually divided my page horizontally into quarters, so not necessary. If you're making your own grid spacing tip-ins like this, I recommend that you stick the horizontal one at the top first and then add the vertical one down the left side rather than the other way around, so that you can make sure you're sticking the vertical one in a place where it's not interfering with the operation of the top one, if that makes sense. And I'm using washi tape along both sides, the top and underneath the tip-in, so that it can act like a hinge. This washi tape is so cute. I got it from Daiso. It was very affordable. I will link to everything that I can link to in the description down below, so that if you'd like to get your hands on anything that I'm using in this video, you can do that. I'm actually really excited about this tip-in system. I think it's going to be more useful for me than the fully removable bookmark system. But look how good this is. I think that's going to be really useful. We'll actually come back to that initial spread later, but for now we're going to get stuck into the fun stuff. We're starting out with that weird, awkward first page. This is where I would usually stick my grid spacing or draw out my grid spacing, but since it's stuck to the inside end sheet this time, I'm going to make this one a quote page because it's not going to be able to really serve a purpose because it doesn't sit well with the rest of the book. So a quote page it is. I'm going with the quote from Albert Einstein. It says, "In the middle of difficulty lies opportunity." Because this is a mid-year journal, I went hunting for a quote that had the word middle in it because we're kind of in the middle of the year, and I thought this one was good. It's a big mid-year reminder to step outside my comfort zone. I'm using a combination of different pens for this one. I'm using the Pilot Fudemasake in navy blue, which is the one I'm using currently for Opportunity at the bottom, but also for Middle at the top, as well as a paint marker from ArtX, which is the same one I used for my name on the previous. Don't worry, I will realize I didn't cross that T. We will fix it soon. I just haven't worked it out yet. The gold brush tip paint marker is also from the same set from ArtX as the difficulty pen, and I'm using it with my letter stamps to stamp in the rest of the quote around my hand-lettered keywords. I recently set up a transitional seasonal spread in a live stream that was really, really fun. It was to welcome winter because we're coming into winter here in Australia, and I used this script washi tape in that, along with a PET tape that I'm going to use quite heavily in this whole setup. The colours in the florals in the PET tape are actually a pretty good match for the colour scheme I used for the beginning of my previous journal, so I liked that it was kind of a continuation of the year. This is the Frosty Rose PET tape from the Washi tape shop, and it is so gorgeous. So I've lined the top and bottom with half on each side of the script washi tape. I love tearing washi tape down the middle, I love the look that it gives. Added some Frosty Rose accents, and I felt like I needed to bring the burgundy element back a little bit, so I'm using a Tombow Jewel brush pen just to add a couple of lines down each side, and of course fix that cross T on difficulty. We're moving on to my cover spread, and I have to warn you before we get started, I'm not that happy with how this spread ended up, but it's fine. It's only got to last me 6 months, and I don't really look back at my cover spread that often anyway. It's kind of more of a mindset thing for me. I wanted very bold numbers for my 2023, and I wanted them very clean and sharp, so I've thermal printed them with my PHOMEMO MO2 mini printer, but it actually only prints in black and white, and I didn't want black letters, so I'm going to draw over them in a minute. You'll see. I didn't tear down this script washi tape this time, I just added a whole chunk of it, and I think that may have been the beginning of my problems. It's a lot. It's subtle, this text, but it's also, you know, it's visually quite busy, so I think I could have done with a bit less. I'm layering it with the blue Starry Sky washi tape from the Starry Sky washi tape set from the Washi tape shop. And I did tear this one down, and I do like how it looks there. I kind of wish I'd left it at this point. Anyway, back to those thermal printed numbers. I'm using the gold paint marker to go over the numbers, and I thought about cutting all the way around them, but that just seemed like too much work and very fiddly, and I've done that before and it takes a long time. So I decided just to cut these into little boxes and add the gold over the top and stick them down on the page like that, and then bracket them with these little square flower arrangements from the PET tape roll. Honestly, if I had just used some of the larger pieces from the PET tape roll, I probably would have liked this spread more if I decorated it basically the same way I did the previous one, but I didn't. So, you know, once again, I should have left it here, but I felt like I really needed to bring in some of that burgundy element, so I started out by trying to make it subtle by lining the numbers, kind of just made it look like Aladdin. I used the same marker to stamp volume 2 along the bottom, and I don't mind that. I think that's pretty cute actually, but then I thought, maybe it's the rose gold in the gold parts of this washi tape that will bring it in. And so I added this, and now it sort of just looks like washi tape train tracks, and I'm not stoked with it, but I'm not angry enough with it to get rid of it either. I still wanted more burgundy, so I added some roses in the way that I had them in my first journal for the year. This was kind of the whole theme. I hadn't been planning to draw any brush pen flowers this time, but I thought this is what it's missing clearly. And I just think it's too much. There's too much going on. Even now, I'm actually thinking about taking that kind of vine washi tape back off. But, you know, not every spread can be a winner, and it's not actually going to serve a purpose. I probably won't even really look at it that much, so it's just going to stay the way it is, and we're going to chalk it up to experience and carry on with our lives and move on to another spread. On to a spread that's actually functional. This is going to be my future log just for the next 6 months, so from July to December 2023. I've thermal printed my calendars because I wanted to save my hand a little bit. I just used one of the basic Canva calendar templates and added my own numbers to make sure that they all were correct for the coming months, and I'm just going to stick them down and leave some space on the right side to add important dates there. I do have this information in my previous journal, but I want to have it handy because I do plan things quite far in advance, so it's useful for me to have this stuff move with me into the new journal. And we are going to decorate this spread, but we're going to do it a lot more tastefully than the previous. I'm learning as we go. While we make this spread pretty, I just wanted to mention I recently launched channel memberships and I'm very, very excited about it. Channel members pay a small monthly subscription fee and in turn they get access to things like custom emojis and membership badges next to their name in live chats, and also access to my private Discord server where we talk about all things bullet journaling and stationery, and members only live streams as well, which will be so much fun. It's just a very direct way for you to support me if that's something that you'd like to do, and to give us a chance to really get to know each other a little bit better. I'm so grateful to my channel members. If you'd like to find out more, click the join button on my channel or below this video and you can see all of the perks and pricing over there. Onward to the next page. This one is going to be another future log, but it's for the first 6 months of 2024. I plan things very far in advance. I do already have stuff booked in the first half of 2024, so I need somewhere to write it down. But I also don't have that many things booked, so I don't need that much space to write it down. I haven't thermal printed these calendars. They're just hand-lettered ones, which I think is totally fine. They end up a little bit smaller if I don't thermal print them, while still being very readable, so I wanted to really make sure I could fit all 6 on a single page here. And just having that month heading highlighted in burgundy like that has given me that little pop of the red that I was looking for, so I kind of wish I'd done something similar to that on the previous spreads, but clearly I'm working it out as we go through. The facing page is for goals. I like to check in with my goals mid-year and just see what I'm working on, see how far I've gotten along towards some of the goals, see if there are some that no longer apply, that I don't actually want to achieve anymore, and just reassess. If I'm getting really close to achieving one of my goals, I can push the goalpost out a little bit further and be a bit more ambitious, or if I'm really, really far away from achieving one and I don't think I can do it in the next 6 months, then I can kind of bring the goalpost forward a bit more and make it a bit more reasonable. I'm using my letter stamps to make my heading for this one. I also used them on the previous one, just on an old envelope so that I had some scrap paper kicking around. And I'm tearing the edges along a ruler so it gives me a precise but also still kind of soft and fluffy edge, and I really like how that looks. I've really leaned back on an old faithful decoration style here. This is basically the same way I decorated my reading journal back at the beginning of the year, and I really like it. I think it's cohesive and it works and it doesn't make me mad, not like that cover spread. I've just cut some tiny little elements out of that PET tape to add a little bit of something to these pages as well, and then we're going to move on to the next spread. This one is for reflection, and I think that's something that I overlooked in quite a few of my early bullet journals, but it's actually quite important to the bullet journaling process, is to look back at what you're doing in your life and in your journal and just see what's working for you and what isn't, and adapt and change based on that. Ryder Carroll has some very interesting videos on reflection, so I will link to one of those in the description as well in case you'd like to see. Ryder Carroll is the guy who invented this whole bullet journaling method. So this spread is a place for me to reflect on the past 6 months and see, what am I celebrating? What needs work? What am I still wanting? What am I reaching for? And what am I leaving behind? It's pretty big, kind of scary personal stuff, but it's really necessary in order to learn and grow and to feel comfortable with who you are, I guess. And after I fill out a spread like this, I always feel really good. So if you're already somebody who does sort of long form journaling and looks at yourself, you'll have no problems with this. But if you've never done anything like this, I really encourage you to just give it a go. You can be gentle with yourself, that's okay. You just have to start somewhere. You don't even have to make it long form journaling. You could just do some dot points and that is totally okay too. I call this next spread my content planner, but it's really just for YouTube videos because I post once a week on a Friday evening Australian time. I like to kind of work out what my videos are going to be in advance as much as I can, especially where things like sponsorships tie in. Sometimes they need to be posted before a certain date in the month and stuff like that. So this way I can work out where my Plan With Me videos will fit. I try not to post two of the same thing in a row, so like back-to-back haul videos and stuff like that, just to keep things more interesting for you guys. So it's good for me to have a place to work out where that's going to happen. It changes a lot, and that's okay. There's a lot of like crossing out and rewriting and going over things here in my previous journal. And I also do have a monthly content planner within each of my monthly setups, which is where I schedule out Instagram content and stuff like that too. I don't do any other platforms on this content planner spread. This is just for YouTube. But it is also just a really functional calendar spread setup, so if you like the look of it, you don't have to use it for YouTube planning, you could use it for something else. I actually think it would make a really good assignment and exam planner for if you were studying or something like that. You could use it for work projects, you could use it to track something else, whatever springs to mind for you, you could use it for that, I'm sure of it. It might need a little adapting, but you can do that, I believe in you. The past 3 spreads were all decorated along the top and bottom of the page, so I wanted to mix it up a little bit for this one and decorate the sides instead. I left a bit of space to layer some washi tapes there when I was setting up the functional bits of the layout, so I kind of planned ahead on that one. I'm going to add some of the PET flowers at the bottom of the page, so in order to balance that out, rather than stamping my heading along the top, I went for a hand-lettered one this time so that I could make it a little bit bigger and bolder, so it could balance out those flowers at the bottom of the page. I've been really enjoying looking back at my listening habits via Receiptify at the end of every month. It's like a browser-based app that looks at your Spotify history and I guess aggregates what you've been listening to into a list that looks like a receipt. So I'm going to use this spread to track the playlists it gives me. Look out, my cat's jumping on the table and completely knocking down my camera. Lucky I was here to grab it. Thanks, Mitsu. I toyed a bit with the idea of thermal printing the actual Receiptify receipt-looking image that it produces, but it has this kind of crinkly, scrunched up paper effect on it that I don't think would translate very well to the thermal printer, so I'm just going to write it out by hand, that's fine. It's like having a month-to-month Spotify wrapped in your journal, and yes, I realize I've left 8 spaces here and not 6. That's actually because I don't have the data for the first half of the year, but you can do a Receiptify analysis of your past 6 months, so I'm going to put that in the first space. For me right now, it's May, so June hasn't started yet, so I can add my June data here as well, and then I can do month to month for the second half of the year, and I think that's kind of cute. So I'm going to go ahead and add that last 6 months in first. A lot of it is my favourite band, Vaudeville Smash. They're Australian, they're fantastic, you should listen to them, especially if you like pop funk with some yacht rock vibes. They are so entertaining on stage too. And I can't wait to look back over this at the end of the year and just see if my music taste changes month to month. I think it'll be really interesting. Only 2 pages left for this setup. This first one on the left is where I'm going to plan what I want to include in my next journal. This is not an uncommon page for me, but it usually happens kind of in the back of the journal as an afterthought, so I thought this time I'd give it pride of place. I'm not sure if I'm going to do a little sketch like Jess does in her next journal planning situations. I think I'll probably just write out a list because that's fine for me. But because I'm not sure how I'll actually use the page, I'm leaving it just mostly blank with a bit of decoration in the top left corner, where I'll also have the heading, which is next journal, and the bottom right corner. And I'm just going to add a little border around it, but I haven't decided that yet, so you'll see. We'll do that after we do the following page, which is for pen swatches. I saw someone call this page useless in an Instagram reel recently, and I could not disagree more. I flip back to my pen swatches all the time when I'm deciding on a new theme. I find it really useful to have, so I would never skip this page for me personally, even if it's kind of the same thing every time, although I got rid of a lot of my stationery recently, so having an updated pen swatch will be really useful, because the one in my previous journal, I don't own some of that stuff anymore. Again, just decorating a space to put my heading at the top, which I think looks really cute. I sort of wish I'd done this more throughout the setup. And I'm using that same red trusty Tombow Jewel brush pen, the 757, I think this one is, to add a border around each of these pages, just to give it a bit of extra cohesion. I think these are my favorite 2 pages in this whole setup, so I sort of wish I'd gone a bit more minimal across everything, but it's okay, we got there in the end. It's only got to get me through 6 months, and it's fine. This was actually when I flipped back to that first quote page and added those 2 lines on the sides of that one too, because I liked it so much here. Now some of this ink has transferred, so I'm just going to cover that up at the front there and add a little bit more of this washi tape, since it's a necessity to add the hinges on the left side for those tip-ins, so I wanted to put some on the right too to balance it out. And here is the final flip through for my second journal for 2023. Thank you so much for planning with me. I hope you enjoyed this, even though I feel like it's not my best work. Not everything can be a winner, you know? If you haven't already subscribed and you enjoyed this video, I'd love for you to stick around and watch some more stuff and hit subscribe and turn on notifications if you'd like to. I post new videos every Friday evening Australian time, so we'll be back next week with some more stuff. And if you haven't set up for June yet, I have a pretty cute June theme, so if you'd like to see that, there will be a link on the screen in a minute for you to watch if you'd like to. No pressure, it's up to you. Until next week, stay safe and happy, and let's plan together again soon. This was fun.